The Indian Meteorological Department has forecast a normal monsoon of 96% of the long-term average, but, and this is an important but, is that the second half of the monsoon season may be impacted by a developing El Nino. Now, data shows that all El Nino years have not been drought years. Notably, and more recently, since after I became a reporter, 1997, 98 and 2006, 2007, one of them strong El Nino and a moderate El Nino, but they were good harvest years. Now, therefore, after 4 good monsoon years that we have seen since 2018-19, when agricultural growth was over 3%, will this one be a year of lower agri growth? To answer these and other questions, I have with me India's foremost agri-economist, Dr. Ramesh Chand of the NITI Aayog, and Dr. Siraj, Hussain, former Agricultural Secretary and now Professor at the ICRIER. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your time. Dr. Chand, I think the question was phrased in the introduction itself. We've had 4 good La Nina years, good monsoons, good agri output. Now the second half of the monsoon could be impacted. Should we be prepared for a less than 3% agri output this year?
I think there are some nuances related to the forecast. IMD informed that they use 2 models, and both the models are very close to this normal kind of monsoon. Secondly, even if we look at forecast of private SkyMet and again, I find that they are very close. There is a difference only of 2 percentage points. So these indicators are suggestive of the monsoon rainfall, which at least in terms of quantity is going to be close to what is called normal, 83.5 centimeter. Normal average minus 4%. But is matter of concern is that if El Nino effect happens in the middle of the season, then will be impact. Again, I would say that probability of El Nino causing adverse effect according to empirical data is 60%. In 40% of the cases, El Nino doesn't cause any adverse effect on behavior of monsoons. So even if it happens, that development which is happening in Indian agriculture, I want to share it from your TV channel. In last 6 years till 1920, area irrigation has increased by 1 percentage point each year. Okay. From 47 point something percent, now we are 53.5% in 1920. And in the next 2-3 years, I'm sure it might have increased further by another 2 percentage point. So that is one strength of Indian agriculture, that over time our vulnerability to monsoon aberrations has come down. It has been reducing. Okay. Secondly, we now have preparedness. We have a contingency plan up to district level. In some of the districts, even more than one contingency plan, that if something happens, but we can do. But generally, contingency plan work in the beginning. Their effectiveness reduces as you go ahead.
The latter part, yeah.
Yeah, in the latter part, it just reduces. But still, I feel that through methods or some other methods, the impact of El Nino, even if it happens, can be minimized.
Okay. Dr. Hussain, I'm tossing a similar but an extended question to you. The El Nino impact, according to several weather bureaus, I mean, even if you take the Australian weather bureaus and other global bureaus, it appears we have to give it some importance. It might hit in the latter part of August, and that's what the Indian Met is telling us. Now, that's where the bulk of India's heavy, agrarian states begin their sowing and harvesting. And that is the northern states, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab. So if the El Nino is going to impact over at that point in time, is there a chance that actually the agrarian states get impacted? Should we be worried?
Actually, there is no doubt that if there is deficiency in rainfall in August, then the crops sown in the rain-fed areas will be affected. Now, basically, July and August are the major months in which some 70% of rainfall is received. So these months are critical. I am sure that the government would be preparing and advising the farmers in the areas which have been prone to deficient rainfall in previous years, Marathwada, for example, interior Karnataka, other parts of Maharashtra, parts of Gujarat, etc., so that the farmers can perhaps decide to switch to other crops which are less water consuming like moong, etc. So at the all India level, food security is not going to be in any serious doubt. But at individual farmer level, there may be distress, and therefore the Departments of Agriculture of the state government and the Ministry of Agriculture will do well to prepare for that contingency.
Okay, fair point. Dr. Chand, then that brings us to the other question. How prepared are we in terms of stocks? And there we come to what has been the performance of the Rabi crop. The Rabi crop has had this unfortunate excessive rains in the second half of March. And that we are given to understand can mean that the combine harvesters may not be able to pick up the flattened grain. That's what an agricultural expert told me. So should we be prepared for a lower procurement? What's the procurement so far? And would you fear that we may not do that 35 million tons of targeted procurement?
Mm-hmm. I think as far as procurement is concerned, some compromise has to be made on quality. Relaxation has to be given to the specification. But as far as total quantity is concerned, I think government will end up with procurement as per its plan. Because initially what was believed that damage is very widespread. That's not true. It is localized. In certain pockets, really, there is damage. And I even spoke to some farmer. Even the wheat which is flattened can be harvested combined. It's not that completely it is gone. Some farmer told me that even the flattened wheat can be harvested with.
Well, what I read in a Harish Damodaran piece, I think day before yesterday, is that in some of the areas where he has interviewed, what they were expecting in terms of a 24 to 25 quintals per acre may fall to 16 to 18 quintals per acre. In some areas.
24, 25 quintal per acre is also extreme case.
Okay.
You normally get 20 quintal per acre, that too in the best area. Okay, that too in the best area. Then this loss doesn't have to be calculated on large area. It has to be calculated on a very small area.
Yes.
And because of that area is very small, there will be some loss. But this year we were expecting bumper crops. I also visited 2-3 times. This year, if you look at the spike length and grain size, it appeared that crop will be bumper. So we should keep that in mind, that there will be loss from that bumper kind of things. So I do not say that there will not be loss in production. But you see, our biggest wheat growing states now are Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. And if government, large procurement can be made in the state of Uttar Pradesh. So if Uttar Pradesh has not been contributing wheat to the central pool, only small quantity, the reason has been that there was very little procurement mechanism in that state, and often market price used to go below MSP. So I think if this kind of situation develop, because in Punjab harvest has just started. In some area crop is still not. So if that kind of situation emerges, then government should step up its procurement effort in the state of Uttar Pradesh. I see lot of scope for increasing procurement there.
Okay. Let me come to the place where the shoe actually pinches, food prices, therefore. Dr. Hussain, what's your estimate? Do you think we are in for some kind of a food price inflation in the coming months in 2023?
I think, Dr. Lata, that food inflation, at least for cereals, may be well below last year. And the reason is that this year the export of wheat is not allowed. Last year, despite the ban, some 5 million tons of wheat was exported. And in case of rice, to my surprise, and I was proven wrong, the procurement of rice has matched the procurement in the previous years, despite the loss of production in UP, Bihar, and West Bengal, etc., which received 25 to 30% lower rainfall last Kharif. So the food prices, in my view, for cereals at least, should not be under pressure. But for pulses, we are already seeing high inflation. And of course, there is high inflation in milk. But let me add another point, which is broader than this. And that point is that India's agricultural surpluses are marginal. And a small weather event has such a large impact on our procurement and prices and generally on the sentiment that government has to take steps to ban, or impose minimum export price and so on. So last few years, the discussion has been that we have become a surplus economy, and several steps taken by the government reflected that belief.
Yes. Okay, I take your point, sir. Dr. Chand, I just want your view also on prices. Already sugar is high, and as Dr. Hussain pointed out, milk prices are higher for independent reasons. And then the pulse prices. But cereals, we may have a lot of relief from the fact that global cereal prices are down by 30-40% from the post-Ukraine highs that we saw last March. So are we in for a worse food inflation? Will food inflation moderate in the remaining part of 2023?
If you look at commodity group in the food basket, you just find that inflation is coming down, not in case of cereal, even in case of vegetable, in case of edible oil. So these three groups, there is a clear and significant decline in inflation. And I feel that overall the inflation will be lower in the coming months compared to but it was in the previous month, and on the whole year 23-24. I feel unless some shock in the Kharif, etc. happens, I think we can expect prices inflation to cool down. In the case of milk also, because of that lumpy skin disease, because of which estimates say between 1.5 to 1.8 lakh wine died, and milk was also affected. So that effect was in year 22-23.
Yeah. So
I think 23-24 we will be back to normal growth, even in case of dairy sector. So overall, my sense for food inflation for 23-24 is that it will be more than what it was in the previous year. In this 22-23.
Okay, I assure you, sir, if your friends and the Reserve Bank are listening to this, they will be extremely happy. Thank you very much, Dr. Hussain and Chand, for your 360-degree perspective on India's Kharif and Rabi output and food price outlook for 2023. We wrap up on Bazaar with a word of memory of Mr. Keshav Mahindra, one of India's, I think, oldest living billionaires, up until a few hours ago, passed away at the grand old age of 99. He set up Mahindra & Mahindra like we know it before he handed over the baton to Anand Mahindra, I think in 2011 or 2012, finally handed over to Anand Mahindra. So a very, very big loss for India Inc., among the oldest Indian industrialists whom I have covered. Wrap up on Bazaar on that note. Chartbusters up next.